everybody, and welcome to the Code Clarity podcast. I'm Rena.
And I'm Jean. So there's been several cases published this month, all involving third-party medical publishers' emails that have been sent out. So Rena, are these all the same issue?
So you've just described that the cases have been received by the PMCPA, who enforce the ABPI code. And one thing that the PMCPA has noted in the cases is they seem to have received several cases about the same medical publisher. So that's the similarity across these 4 cases that have been published so far. We don't know how many more will be published, but they aren't all exactly the same. There are sort of key differences in them.
Okay, so have they all been ruled in breach? Are they all fine? What's the issues here?
Yeah, some of them haven't been ruled in breach. For example, there's a Bayer case where they're able to talk about the content and why the content doesn't mislead and things like that. And then other ones have been, kind of quite badly let down by the medical publisher in terms of transparency. So Merck Serono, for example. We're not in full agreement, are we, Jean, about all the rulings? I think there's a Gilead one that sort of sticks out a little bit. But I think what's really important is that whether you're a pharma employee or whether you are a medical publisher who gets, paid by pharma to send these emails, there are very key learning points that have come out of these cases.
Okay, so if you're a pharma company who is looking to engage these third-party medical publishers to send your emails, what should you be aware of on the back of these cases?
Okay, so we have certain ones here, and Jean, I'm sure you and I will probably agree that some of this stuff is not new. We've probably bleated on about some of this. So the first one, if you're a pharma employee, is that local review is essential. Novartis were let down because a global email reached the UK. How do you think that happened, Jean?
They didn't realise it was being sent to the UK.
They got the terms EU and Europe mixed up. So it's things that, like code compliance, it's got nothing to do with the issue, right? It's someone's understanding of geography. The second one there about about ambiguous terms. This is more about the content, but Novartis used the word novel, so it's about the content of the emails. And then lastly, this, standard one, oversight of third parties. Even though the third party made the decision about the frequency, and they were sending emails every 4 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Merck were held liable for that. The code doesn't talk about frequency limits on emails, but this piece around, not causing offence or inconvenience, that's where it kicks in.
And so did Merck know that the publishers were sending every 4 days? Were they aware of this, or was this something they weren't aware of?
That I'm not 100% sure if in the case of whether that really spells it out. But at the end of the day, they were held accountable for it. So it's kind of if the learning is, you've got to make sure you do know. You've got to ask the question if you don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything that the medical publishers can do to make pharma's life easier? Or, the breaches are for the companies, they're not for the medical publishers. But obviously, you think that the medical publishers, because they want the sponsorship, they want to work with pharma, what can they do to make their life easier?
Yeah, so for medical publishers, I think just understand this piece around if pharma are paying you to do something, then you've always got to be transparent with the readers and the recipients about pharma's involvement. So Merck were found in breach because their emails disguised promotion. With Gilead, there was a really interesting point to think in that ruling about, and our learning is, if you're a medical publisher, consider adding a generic statement on your emails if some of the linked content goes to pharma-sponsored websites, because you might be misleading readers about where that content's going.
Yeah, and I think the other thing from that ruling would be that if you don't do that as a medical publisher, what you might find is that every pharma company will now insist on their own statements in the email, which means that you'll be changing it in every one. So actually, if you can be proactive and say to all pharma companies, it's okay, we've dealt with this, we've covered it, then it means that you're not going to be beholden to everybody asking you to put something slightly different on the email.
Exactly. And just because you can send lots of emails doesn't mean you should send lots of emails. So show some restraint, check with your pharma client about what that means. And then we've already covered off the geo-targeting errors. It actually does matter. The UK are no longer part of the EU, but they are still part of Europe. So just get those things right.
Okay, brilliant. Lots to learn there for everyone. Okay, thanks a lot, Rena. Bye.
Thank you, Jean. Bye.